Please give a very warm welcome to my new friend, Adam Wallace.
Hello, thank you for having me, and thank you for David pestering me for months to get me down here. I finally picked up the nerve, and my cousin Will joins me as well. I have a couple of friends here from YouTube. It's weird, doing all this stuff on the internet, podcasts, writing, blogging, yada yada, for about 2 years now, being really opinionated and rebellious, I suppose. Now, I wanted to speak today about, well, the idea for this talk was titled, and I say idea, it wasn't actually a script or anything, Moderns Against Modernity. That's kind of ambiguous, and there's so much to say there, and I'm not going to go on and drone on and on about history and all the rest of it, only a little bit. But I wanted to talk about our society as it is, and especially the young generation. David will love for me to speak about this, in regard to political opinions, philosophy, morality, ethics, law, and the senses as well, how we perceive the world, how we process information, and how we think about our colleagues, our friends, our relationships with other human beings, other individuals, and our collective in this country, in Britain, in England, in London. I've been walking around all day today around London, and it's really just confirmed my views. I am pretty much a reactionary. I'm probably the most right person in this room. I don't even call myself a nationalist, that's too left-wing. So, to be very blunt, the society I see in London today, I mean, I live in Exeter, in the southwest. I'm very comfortable around the countryside and the old churches and farms and walls and fields and the old England, the England which is in poetry and so forth and so on. But the England I see today as I walk through London is a society built entirely upon money and upon a kind of shallow individualism, which someone said, oh, we're human beings, we're all interchangeable, we're all the same, we all mean the same thing, the same amount of value, whatever that is measured in. When I walk through London today, I don't see a society which has any long-term future. Yeah. I see a society which will fall prey to economic downturns, will fall prey to conflict in the future. Society, the long history of society is riddled with conflicts, as we know. The last 80 years in our society are the exception, they are not the rule. Of peace, security, tolerance. Now, that isn't to say the reaction to such as I perceive a very shallow society where there lacks definite meaning, there lacks tangible, quantitative difference between people, which then means hierarchy, which means value. You have people to look up to you, and people look up to you, and you have then a system which is tiered, and you look up to other people, you learn from them, and others learn from you, and so on and so forth. When I look into this egalitarian society where everyone is the same, everyone is an individual, everyone is interchangeable, I see a kind of numbness. As I walk through London today, I see a kind of absence of consciousness. Of course, we could refer then to the irreligiosity of our age, and the spiritual deadness which, well, permeates the entire country. 50% of the country is irreligious, totally irreligious, atheistic, secular, materialistic. And that is a problem, because if you have no idea of religious transcendence, you have nothing to look forward to, nothing to be up to, and your worldview is based upon a blandness, a horizontality, instead of a verticality, which, again, describes meaning and a reason to exist. When I look out into London, as me and my cousin Dave as well, walk through London today, I look at all these people, tourists, people who live here, taxi drivers, bus drivers, that I think to myself, the reason these people the reason they exist is simply because they have nothing to die for. They have nothing which really propels them, apart from the humdrum day-to-day and the next paycheck. Therefore, they live spiritually deadened lives, where art, creativity, freedom of expression, logic, philosophy, all these questions, all these areas are dark to them. The 24-hour news cycle keeps them trapped in the dark, in a corridor of this day and tomorrow, and our little events hither and thither. Not anything of substance linked to the past and how we form ourselves and where we come from. Our identity. And it isn't just the native English or British who are praised. Pretty much everyone who lives in a materialistic, multicultural society will praise this. This tumour is spreading all over the world. Tokyo, A man in Tokyo, to quote a friend of mine, who will be watching this when it's all done, he said to me, a man in Tokyo, a city with 14 million people, a man there, he will murder himself because he's lonely. Now he said to me, I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I know there's something not quite happy about that. There's something not quite comfortable about that. The fact that this man murders himself, people kill themselves every day in our big cities because they feel alone, even though they're surrounded by faces. I perceive this even as I walk through Exeter, where I come from, where I was born, a little city in the southwest. It's a lovely place, the cathedral, the quay, 2 miles from the countryside. There is plenty of value in history. And the old Roman walls still hold strong, as when the city was called Isca, fortification of the Romans before they left in 300 or so. But even as I walk through the city centre and I see all this mass of faces, this mass of people, of bodies, of stuff, I don't see anything which I relate to. There is no sense of community, of brotherhood. Most of these people, they don't have my back, and I sure as hell don't have theirs. That isn't obviously how it should be, and it is an indicator of a healthy society which has a future. If you only exist to look out for yourself, no one's going to defend you, no one's going to protect you. If you can't defend others, you will not also defend yourself. And vice versa. Now I started all this blogging and being very opinionated and edgy on the internet as a way to kind of express my frustration going through college. Well, I was about 14, 15 where I really started to be really dissatisfied with youth culture and parties and drugs and pop music and all this crap. It bored me to death. People going on about drugs and parties and all this, pardon my French, shit. I didn't feel I wasn't impressed. I wasn't even interested. People would brag to me about, this new drug they tried on.
Couldn't identify.
No, I couldn't identify.
Can we have Q&A after, please?
I couldn't understand why people enjoy doing these things. I didn't understand what there was of substance here. Right, you go to parties, you get pissed, you fuck people. And you do it again and again and again. That bored me to tears. I became very lonely. As I went into college, into Exeter College, I just became very depressed and I dropped out because I just couldn't. I suppose I entered an existential crisis, as maybe pretentious as it sounds, but as much an existential crisis a 15, 16-year-old can enter, that's what happened to me. And throughout my adolescence and recently, plagues of thoughts of suicide, all these things, they linger. And not just with me, but for many young people. Because we've been born into a world which tells us we cannot be who we are. Political correctness, all this speech goes, so on and so forth. They are a symptom of a deeper problem which exists at a metapolitical level. The fact of the matter is, our leaders have betrayed us. The people in control of our society have they've led us into a dark corner. They've led us into a dark corner. And no, it isn't just the Jews, right? We'll get into that later. Maybe it's a bit too controversial. But the people in control of our society, anyone at any position of power, may have forfeited their role in that hierarchy. People in the church, people in government, people in local government, people in bureaucratic bodies like the European Union, etc. They have all forsaken the long-term existence of their civilizations, which they should be serving, not vice versa. They shouldn't be served by their populations. They are in that office with those responsibilities to be served by the people they govern, protect, lead, guide, educate, so on and so forth. They are the heralds of a particular civilization, a particular society, a particular community, which has its own destiny and its own meaning. And these, what we say, they're global elites nowadays, but they've forfeited their roles to these people who put them in positions of power. So what? In the lives of money and luxury. Angela Merkel, best example of this, and what she does to Germany. Germany will see civil war in the next, I will predict, this is on tape, 50 years. You'll start to see seriously violent out. Even in the past 2 weeks, there have been multiple terror attacks. Women and children blown to pieces. In Nice, babies were crushed beneath steel and concrete.
Allegedly?
No, it wasn't. But the fact that remains that these things could have been very easily prevented. And it isn't about bigotry and hating everyone. It's about ensuring something as simple as a sensible immigration policy and not fostering philosophies and ideologies which undermine the well-being of the native populations of these countries. It's quite easy to do. Obviously, going off the backlash of the last World War, in which, well, against which there was a huge ideological backlash, a response to the 60s, as we know. There's a lot of fuel there. The car can keep running for quite some time. But I think we are ending it. I think the game is slowly becoming to be given up. And this relates to meetings, videos, websites. A couple of people here today know of this sort of thing, are involved in these communities on the internet, which involve thousands of people from all over the world. We would meet up in real life if it was easier and more often, but the internet facilitates these things rather well. But the reason we want to discuss these things, explore these things, and understand politics, philosophy, etc., history, is so not only can we get a better sense of what actually is happening in the world, what actually is going on in the world, aside from media lies, misinformation, half-truths our politicians spew at us, but also find a sense of meaning in our own lives, and a sense of security and moral security and existential security in our own lives, because society has forfeited this being given to us. Many young men I know have grown up in fatherless homes, myself included, have suffered abuse, neglect, life without a leader, without a guide, a role model, someone to look up to and to learn from. These things are fundamentally lacking in our society, not only at the micro level of individuals in fatherlessness and so forth and so on, but also at the macro level. Our politicians lie, our banks destroy currency, the church practices immorality. All the, as I said, traditional designators of morality and order in our civilization are crumbling. Because the actions of men are degenerate. Because the actions of men are selfish, self-centered, and not considering the long-term implications of their actions and what facilitates their actions in the very first place.
Yes.
That isn't to say that my blogging and YouTube and all the rest of it is going to change the world. No, it isn't. But if I can change the minds of maybe 2 people, as Brahma said to Siddhartha, Buddha, when he found enlightenment, it doesn't matter if you just convince one person, it'll be worth it, just for them. Now, there's a lot more I could kind of say regarding setting the world to rights and complaining about the status quo, and there is a lot to complain about, damn right. But I want to kind of look at what drives me kind of personally. My 2 biggest influences, one of them is the late orator, I suppose, philosopher, writer, Jonathan Bowden. He was involvement with some of the people here tonight, and I'm very glad to be here and honoured to be part of this kind of connection. The second was an Italian esotericist by the name of Julius Evola. Now, the Freudians might say I'm only looking up to these people to find a daddy figure. There's probably some truth to that, to be told, but I can't think of any better man.
Yeah.
These people led their lives with energy and vigour and passion and uprightness, which is almost invisible in our contemporary world today. Although Bowden only died a few short years ago, his influence has superseded his mortal life, and he continues to teach and to inspire many people, not just people who are politically interested, but people who, like me, look for a higher reason than just having a political opinion, who want to find an existential reason, a reason to live, a reason to be, a direction with which to move forth into. Bowden inspires not only myself, but many others, many thousands. Interestingly, his talk on Julius Evola, right now as of the recording of this speech, has about 50,000 unique views on YouTube. That's 50,000 people.
Edgar Steele.
Pardon?
Edgar Steele.
I'm not familiar. Might be a bit too young for this. But comparatively, Julius Evola, a man who had some serious influence in Italy during the fascist period, also in Nazi Germany. Although he was never a fascist or a National Socialist, in fact he called himself an anti-fascist, and his first publication was lamenting the fact that fascism wasn't extreme enough. And that's why he was an anti-fascist. Then he did write his notes on the Third Reich and fascism view from the right. But these people You looked at their lives, you looked at their stories, you looked at how they behaved, and unfortunately how they died. But you see immense meaning and immense profundity to the existence of such individuals. And there are many individuals like this who have come and passed. There might even be some in this room. There might be some who watch this. There might be many people out there right now. But the point stands that even in our age of disillusion, materialism, manipulation, illusion, there exist people who go against the grain. And it is them who we should look to for order, meaning, and morality.
I wasn't sure it was finished.
Have you finished?
Pregnant pause, pregnant pause.
I'll do another paragraph.
Have you finished?
Continue, sir, continue, sir.
Continue.
We have one more paragraph.
I'd like to just finalise by again thanking David and thanking my cousin and thanking Ollie and everyone else for having me here. What I'm doing is on a small scale, but like I said, if it affects a few people, then it's worth it. But also it's worth it for my own personal development and existence. Now, the community I'm part of, an extension of the new right, the reactive sphere, right, whatever you want, whatever special term you want to use, there's a reason why young people, especially men, are waking up and looking at the world as it is and saying something isn't quite right. Looking at the world and thinking there's something not quite right about the trajectory of our society in America, Britain, mainland Europe. The directions of our societies is not comfortable. Where are we going to be in 100 years, 200 years? We have records of human civilization going back 40,000 years. And yet, never before has there been events such as the ones transpiring now, especially in mainland Europe, which is concerning the past 2 years. We are entering a dark period in history. Not only dark because it's going to get bad and it's going to get worse. You think there's problems now, you see nothing yet.
Yeah.
But also it's dark because these corridors we're stumbling through they're dark. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what could happen. We know that some people will say, oh, he's just being paranoid, everything's going to be fine forever. Yes, tell that to the Romans, yes. Tell that to the Celts, tell that to the Christian Egyptians, Christian Turks.
Mycenaeans.
Societies are fragile, they are complex and they can be easily destroyed, but only if we let them. There is the factor of human agency and free will to be considered. And if we continue to fight against the grain, not only are we representing an undercurrent beneath us, which seeks to overcome the troubles around us, but we also further it. It works in a kind of a cycle, it snowballs. So, I think with that, thank you for having me.
Clarify.
Ladies and gentlemen,